So I've been here all day. This is my first time at this account. Technically yesterday we just picked up this account. We got 6 chillers here, and we're just going through it one by one. This plant's in the middle of an automation retrofit. It's kind of a cluster. It's not had a whole lot of really good maintenance in some time. This chiller, when I got here, was surging, wasn't doing well. Found some issues with the cooling towers, and then I found that the purge unit had some wiring crossed up, and so the purge wasn't actually running with the whole chiller. So the chiller would sit there and run, never would get the purge to come on. This filter hadn't been changed in forever, and it was because the valves on it wouldn't seal off. Come to find out, after working the valves and working on them, I finally got the valves to seal off enough where I could change it. But I still need to recommend replacing those service valves. You can see them back here. There's the liquid return valve, and the discharge gas valve is right back there. Here's some old chillers. So I got 2 plants here. This is the one plant. We're going to be doing some eddy current testing tomorrow. So I got this chiller here draining down, getting ready for eddy current. This has been the primary chiller that's kept up with the building. So this chiller here in the middle has been having a lot of issues, so it's on the projects list to get taken care of. We got 3 condenser water pumps, 3 chill water pumps. There's a lot of pneumatics. You can see that air compressor has got a thrown belt. Yes, this is what sometimes you run into whenever you walk into a new plant that's just full of issues, man. Like I said, I've got another plant, the building next door, a very similar setup, and it's probably in worse shape than this plant is. So I've probably got about a week's worth of work. I'm going to be doing a full PM on all the chillers, getting everything back up to snuff, getting them set to our standards as a company and to what I expect, what I try to run my chillers at, the level and the condition of them. And then while I'm doing that, I'm doing a full plant audit, top to bottom. I'm going through piece by piece, seeing how the plant's operating, seeing how well it's running, seeing how well the equipment's maintaining, and looking at the automation logics and seeing how well it's actually running the plant. And if it's not doing what I expect or what I would hope it would do, or if I want to see it do more, then just getting with the customer, getting with the automation people, making this happen. I've done this at a couple of plants now. This is kind of becoming something that we're starting to try to build a name for. Is you got a plant that hadn't ran right in 20 years, let me show up. Let's look at it. Let's see what it is. Let's piece by piece go through it. And almost always what it is it's about 20 to 30 different small things that all play their own independent parts that make one really big issue. And it's just not everybody takes the time to go through that stuff. So anyway, guys, I'll check out on this one. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to try to get some footage of that eddy current, let you guys see that, and then I'll try to get some time lapse on that other chiller. I've already done this one. I didn't get to shoot any footage today like I was hoping to, but I went through the starters, cleaned up all the contacts, got everything nice and pretty, went through all the electrical. I fixed some of the wiring. Some wiring was miswired inside the control panel. So piece by piece, guys, piece by piece. Well, I was hoping to get some time lapse today on doing some chiller PMs, and honestly I started today thinking it was going to be a pretty quiet, pretty simple, smooth, not a whole lot going on day. I should know better than to think that by now in my career, but one can dream. Anyway, so this chiller has been having considerable issues. It had really low oil level. I'm thinking that we had a little bit of migration, but I'm also wondering if somebody pulled it, but I have no idea. Nobody knows the history, so I have had to add some oil so far. I've had it running now for about half a day, and I'm getting further and further away from thinking that the oil has migrated, and it was just somebody removed it at some point is what I'm really starting to think. But anyway, so this chiller had a starter issue on starter 1. It's a Y delta start. The coil was beginning to fail on it. It couldn't properly maintain the hold. So anyway, replaced the starter coil. That took care of that problem. Now it's working perfect. That allowed me to continue to run, because what it was doing is every time the chiller would try to turn on, the starter had a really loud buzz to it. You can see this. I used an old starter they had for parts. The starter had a really loud buzz to it, and anyway, what it was doing is because it was weak, and it would run for just a few minutes, and then it would trip out on loss of power is what it would trigger. The reason it was tripping on that is because the coil couldn't hold the contacts in like it needed to. It's having a really hard time, and I mean, it made a hellacious racket. Anyway, put the new coil in. That fixed that. Got it turned on. It was having a major surging issue. I was looking at the approach and looking at the condenser temps, and it was looking fine. I didn't see any explanation, any reason, nothing as to why it would be surging. And so I finally hooked my testo gauges up and started checking it, and realized that my discharge temperature sensor, which is reading discharge saturation, which is how this machine determines condenser pressure, had failed. It was reading about 10 to 15 degrees off. And so that did a couple of things. So the most impactful thing it did was it did not allow the purge system to operate properly, because the pump out on the purge operates off of an algorithm inside of the micro panel system. Well, that algorithm looks at condenser saturation temp for one of its primary numbers to know if it's good or not. And so it's looking at that temp, and it's also looking at the compressor suction temp on the purge machine. Well, anyway, so due to that, it never realized that it needed to purge at all. It always thought that it was within range and it had no atmosphere in the system, which was completely false. That was the cause of my surging. Is my machine is set for years without running and with no maintenance, no nothing. And even when I got here, the purge was not wired correctly. Somebody had miswired it. I found miswiring inside of the control panel, just a bunch of wiring issues. Got all that fixed. Found some programming issues. Some people had programmed some stuff in that was not correct. So just, again, issue after issue. It's just what happens over time. So yeah, got the sensor changed out. That took care of that. As you just saw a second ago, the pump was running. It just satisfied, and it's cycling through now. I do have it off for the weekend, but I am going to leave the purge operating over the weekend so that it can try to help purge some of this non-condensables out. And what it looked like whoever had worked on it before had tried to do was run the system without going through the micro panel, and you can't do that on this particular setup. You bypass all the logics and the PIDs, and it doesn't know what to do when you do that, because they try to do it through the wiring. Anyway, on top of that, even after I got the purge running, I was not draining the liquid off of the tank like I was supposed to. And come to look at the date code, the date code on the purge filter was from 2014. Well, it's 2020. So I already had the new filter ready to go. I just hadn't installed it yet. I went ahead, put it in. That took care of that. Now it's draining fine. My liquid level's doing fine. I can see it purging down and draining through my sight glass without any issues. So I'm really happy with that now. Anyway, I have no idea what else I'm going to run into. If anybody's wondering, yes, all the tubes have been brushed, and we've had an eddy current done. So that the condenser itself is not the issue. The cooling tower is clean. My condenser water was running about 70 degrees when all this was happening, with a 54 degree entering chill water. One of the things I did to stop the surging, but just to keep it online, is I lowered the current limit down to about 45%, which is just barely anything. That allowed it to run without surge, so I was able to actually get some good run hours on it today without beating the hell out of it. So anyway, I'm gonna let that purge run over the weekend. We'll be back next week. This was all part of a service call. I will be doing the PMs on this particular one, and like I said, I've got several others in this plant that I'll be working on, so stay tuned, guys. I appreciate it. Alright, we got this 40 horse motor. The bearings are out in it, and the customer elected to change the bearings out instead of either replacement or taking it to get a rebuild. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to find a good spot, set the camera up, and let her roll.